Advisor from the European Medicines Agency. Thank you for speaking with us today, Marisa.
And thank you for inviting us, Sabrina, and the ECRIN. We are really delighted to be here with this audience, which is of high scientific quality, and as science is our foundation, for us it's really a nice place to be, the right place to be, actually.
Thank you very much. So the first question for you, Marisa, is what are the main regulatory pathways and challenges for personalized medicine in Europe?
Okay, these are big questions indeed, but I have to focus on some elements of it, which are really nice. It's very well formulated. We speak about pathways, not just one way, different way to get personalized medicines to the patient. And also we speak about challenges, but from our side, we see challenges indeed as opportunities for evolving and improving the way we do. So when it comes to the pathways, these are all along a life cycle of a medicine. We can have pathways for personalized medicine earlier on at the time of biomarker discovery and trying to link together with the scientific community the biomarkers to the clinical phenotype, the clinical characteristics of the patient, so then eventually in the future drugs can be targeted properly for that patient. And this comes in various ways, through clinical trials, major clinical trials, but also through a process which is pretty new, a pathway which is pretty new and not so well known indeed, which is the qualification of biomarkers, which is something we work with the community in order to have a solid foundation for the choice of the biomarkers, the appropriate ones. And this is an example. So during development and research and development, so looking into personalization via appropriate and completely revolutionary type of clinical trials, which pose all problems of interpretation with a very big scale of uncertainty. And there again, we have the scientific community with us to help. But then also the time of marketing authorization, when a decision is made that finally the benefit risk for that personalized medicine, which means a medicine for an individual patient or subset of patients, is positive. So this is the premise for any decision making. So benefit risk should be proven at the time of marketing authorization. Then we have a wealth of pathways which can be used not just to license a product, which is not enough, but to make the product accessible to the patients. And this is why the work starts much earlier than the actual marketing authorization itself, starts with the patients to ensure that what is in the file for the benefit risk includes preferences and needs of the patients as they perceive, as they communicate them to us and to society. And then with the academia involved and the clinical experience involved in our scientific advisory groups, and the HTA, because at the end of the day, what is the point to approve a product which never reaches the patient? So we invite the health technology assessors for 5 years now to work with us at the very beginning when we discuss the trials, when we discuss the clinical package, so there is more opportunity during development to produce the evidence which then will help the HTAs and then the reimbursement authority to evaluate the value, the therapeutic value of that particular product. But this is not the end, because in the life cycle approach, Sabrina, we keep following the patient with the new technologies. And now we have the famous omics, and the Council declaration in December actually mentioned a lot the use of omics in personalized medicine, because a lot of personalization comes for all molecules after years of use, and then you discover through the new technologies which are today available that you can personalize, you can reduce risk, you can modify dosing, so you can really make more personal the use of the drug. So then it's pathways, it's many pathways, as I said. But this comes with challenges. It means that we need to be very closely working with the patients, with the healthcare professionals, with academia, with the health technology assessors, with the payers, and with the public health decision makers, because we will never be able to ensure that the product reaches the patients on a personal basis on our own. Personalized care and personalized medicine is much bigger endeavor than a personalized drug. It requires infrastructure, it requires scientific competencies, requires training of healthcare professionals and prescribers, requires training at the academic level, at the practice level. So it's something which is well beyond the reach of the agency. So this is why we have our role in this big endeavor is to work on the drugs with all the stakeholders so the awareness is there and the participation is there. Because without this close collaboration, nothing will happen. Nothing will happen. Personalized medicine is such a big thing that only working together, all parties, we can get it done. We can have a personalized drug, but this is not personalized medicine if it's not with the other components. So it's very strategic and critical that our collaborative approach, which is there since the beginning, grows into new direction in these new collaborations, which we've been testing, and we actually are challenging so with certain new pathways, like the adaptive pathways to patients, to see how we can put them into use for the benefit of the individuals.
Could you please provide a specific example of a regulatory issue and how it was resolved?
Yes, I have a case which is really, really challenging, and I will not enter into a methodological discussion here because it's not the purpose of this conversation, but I have a case of a recently approved drug which is the most personalized you can have, and this Holoclar is a autologous limbal stem cells product which is used for addressing blindness caused by alkali lesion of the cornea. So we have a drug now which is derived from the individual itself, so it's the most personal you can have, is expanded. The cells are taken from the corner of the eye, then the cells are expanded, and then they are treated in a way that implanted back in the eye of the individual help for restoring in a large number of patients, the data we have is 50%, level of vision in patients initially completely blind, resolve some patient-reported outcomes which are really important, like pain, redness, sensitivity to light, which makes the life of this patient really miserable. So this is a 70% response. And then on top of that is followed by very successful transplant. So again, in 72% of the cases. So it sounds wonderful. But then if you look at the data which were submitted, this is really a revolution. The submission was based on one big study, big for being an orphan condition, of course, carried out in a space of almost 10 years on 200 patients. And these were very well documented, the quality of the identification of the patients, the characteristics of the patients, the measurements done for looking at the outcomes, at the benefit, clinical benefit of the drug was very, very, very accurate. And then we had another package with safety elements, an additional about 100 patients, which was followed up for a long time, for about 10 years. So we had extraordinary data, because having long-term follow-up at the time of marketing authorization is not the most common situation. But everything was retrospective. There was a retrospective observational case series-based study. So this was something which really touched into the foundation of the way we look at clinical evidence generation, which is always prospective, hopefully randomized, controlled. This was nothing of all that. So the committee, when discussing the case, was really very much taken by discussions incredibly lengthy. But at the end, what prevailed was the interest of the individuals. How can you deny to patients who have really nothing else such clearly beneficial approach? Because, of course, there was a long story behind, there was a long follow-up, and all the discussions about bias in enrollment, bias in measurements, were all lengthy discussed by the committee. Each case has been reviewed individually, and the quality of the data was so good that then the committee took the side of the patient first, patient will have it. We consulted with the scientific community, we consulted with the patients, and of course, this does not reduce the level of the requirements, because benefit risk is there. 10 years on, no major problems. Benefit measurable, both on patient-reported outcomes, investigators-reported outcomes, and hard endpoint like success rate in transplantation. So this was for us and for the committee, of course, the benefit risk positive, but we wanted again a confirmation in a prospective mode. So we use a legal instrument we have, which is the conditional marketing authorization. So this product has been approved on condition that a study is conducted. And interesting enough, we've been on a randomized control trial, double-blinded, no, because the benefit is there. So, but what we expect and we impose to the company, which now is taking responsibility for the product, is to conduct a high-quality, prospective observational study. And this with a protocol which is discussed and with a time frame for enrollment which has been agreed upon. So, of course, we are on the case. We will follow up this case very closely with the patient organization, with the academic centers which will be involved in the recruitment, and in order to ensure that data are made promptly available. So this was really a challenge. And I think the solution was not inside the agency itself, was in the legislation and was in the participation of the stakeholders in willing this to happen. So again, the agency is a small thing in the field of personalized medicine, but we can leverage the science and the commitment to the patient interest to make things happen. So we do our part, but of course, we are very much looking forward a constructive and participatory collaboration from all stakeholders. So this is, I think, a beautiful example.
Thank you very much.